Welcome to the Entrepreneur Insider Secrets podcast. Excited to be able to spend time with you again today, talking about things important to your business. Today, we're going to be talking about something that is very, very critical for people who are running a coaching or consulting or business where you're actually working with clients directly. And that is, how do you turn a conversation into a client without feeling awkward or pushy? Because here's the thing that we know is that when you're out there talking to people and when you're doing a coaching business or you're doing one-on-one coaching, you're coaching people in a group, you're doing anything along those lines, one of the things you quickly understand is it's very much a trust-based business. Before someone's going to hire you as a coach to work with you, they kind of want to have some idea whether or not, is this going to work? Is this a good fit for me? Do I trust this person? Do I believe in this person? And one of the best ways to do that is simply by having a conversation with them, is talking with them and deciding and having that moment where you just talk with one another and you make a decision like, is this going to work or not? And is this a person that I believe can help me? Is this a person that I can believe can make a difference in my life? Can they get me the result that I'm trying to reach? If not, then you say, okay, well, I appreciate your time, and you move on with your day because you realize in that moment that this isn't really the right person for me. And a lot of times we understand that it's not that person isn't a good person. They're not something wrong with them. It's just sometimes it's not the right fit. You're looking at them going, yeah, this isn't really exactly what I'm going for. This isn't exactly what I need. And as a result, I don't think this is going to work. This isn't connecting with me in the way that I needed to for this to be successful. So on the other side, you as the service provider are looking at it going, I want people who are actually going to come in and be committed. I want people who are going to come in and want to do this. They're going to commit to a coaching process. They're going to stay with it. They're not going to show up 1 week and then quit. So for you as well, you're going to want to do this because you want the right type of clients. And you want to find out, like, what are their goals? What are their dreams? What are their fears? What are they trying to achieve? And does this make sense? Because, I've had plenty of times where I've talked to somebody and I went, yeah, you know what? I'm not your guy. I'm not the guy who's best fit to help you because what you're trying to do, that's not really me. That's not really what I'm about. That's not what I'm good at. That's not what I do. This isn't the right fit. And you actually feel relieved, honestly, at the end of the conversation because you can move on. And look, we've all been in that situation where we've hired on a client, and about 3 or 4 weeks into the process of whatever it is that we're working on with them, you have that moment where you go, oh boy, why did I do this? This is not a good fit. This does not make sense. This is not where I should be. I should have never done this. And so a lot of these things can simply be resolved by having a good conversation. Now, here's the thing. We also have to know how to do the conversation correctly, which means we need to understand why most conversations stall before the other person becomes a client. Why is that? Why do so many times, like, you tell people you have a conversation with them, talk to them about becoming a client, what it is that you do. In most conversations, when I see especially people who are first getting started out, what I see in a lot of people is that the conversation was good. They ended up helping the other person. The person came with questions, but there was never a moment in the process where you were leading them towards becoming a client. You just ended up doing a lot of work for them for free. You ended up going out and giving them a lot of coaching, giving them a lot of advice, helping them with whatever it is that they're looking for. And they said, okay, great. See ya. Bye. And at the end, you're going, okay, I guess I just gave away a free coaching session or a free consulting session, and I'm not going to ever get paid for it. And they're not going to become a client, and they're not ever going to see me again. They got what they needed. They kind of used me in that moment, and now they're gone. And that's frustrating for you as a service provider, because you know your value. You know that you're good at what you do. You know that you have talent and skill and ability to help people, to make a difference in people's lives. And yet this person just came in, got what they feel like, extracted what they needed from you, and walked away. And you sit there and go, well, I never really felt like there was ever an opening in the conversation to even talk about becoming a client. They just kind of went all over the, in the directions over here. And I never even felt like there was an open door to talk about it. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason why these things happen. First and foremost, the first lesson we have to learn is when this happens, when the other person just comes in, they ask you a bunch of questions, they take a bunch of stuff from you, they pick your brain, they pull out a bunch of knowledge, and they walk away and never even consider becoming a client. The reason that happened is because they were the ones leading the conversation, not you. They were the ones directing where everything was going to go, not you. And as a result, they came in, led you around, got what they needed, and said, okay, bye. And now you're standing there going, but wait, knowing that you never got a chance. You never got an opportunity to even talk about what it is that you do. So what's going to happen is you're going to end up just doing a lot of work for free in those calls, because you're not leading, you're following. You're letting them come in with their agenda and their mission of what they want, and they're just running straight forward to get what they want, grabbing the thing that they need and saying, okay, bye, thanks. And you're no closer to having another client. You're no closer to building your business than what you were when you started. So here's where the problems lie, is that you went into the conversation without a plan. You went into the conversation without a strategy, and you just kind of let the conversation roll, and they took it and ran with it because they had questions and they needed help and they wanted specific things that they were looking for, but you didn't. And as a result of them leading the conversation, you were left kind of holding a bag full of air. So point number one in all of this is, don't just go into the conversation unprepared. Don't go into the conversation without any kind of strategy. Don't go into the conversation being the follower. This is your call about potentially becoming your client. You need to be the one leading the conversation. And that doesn't mean you're not listening. That doesn't mean you're not helpful. That doesn't mean you're not letting them talk by any means. That's far from what it means. But what it does mean is you're not here to be taken advantage of. You're not here to be used. You're here to see if there's a fit for them becoming a client. That is why the conversation is happening. And you cannot lose sight of it. Too many times I see people, well, I just want to be helpful, and hopefully if I'm helpful to enough people, a few of them will become my client. You have a beautiful heart when you say things like that. You obviously are a good person because you want to help people, but it's not a strategy that's going to get you clients. It's a strategy that's going to get you taken advantage of, because you're not leading, they're just using. They're using you, and they're taking advantage of your good nature to just ask a bunch of questions, get what they want from you, and walk away, because they honestly don't care. They're just there for themselves to get what they can. But you have to know that when you have these calls, when you schedule a call with somebody and you put them on your calendar, you have to know The purpose for this is to see if this person is going to be a good fit to become my client. That I'm not here to answer all their questions. I'm not here to do a free coaching session. I'm not here to give them everything that they want so they can just take it and walk away. No, that's not why the call is happening. The call is happening because I'm here to see if this, you and me, makes sense. Does us working together to help you achieve your goals, me doing my part, you doing your part, and we come together to create a successful solution. Does this make sense? Is this a good fit? Is this something that we should be engaged in and doing? If not, okay, no problem. Better off knowing now than 2 months from now when I'm sitting there going, oh, dear Lord, why did I take them on as a client? No, I'd rather get the answer now before I have a massive headache down the road and end up doing a bunch of things for somebody that's just going to cause me nothing but headaches. I'd rather have that answer today. But the other side of it is, if it is, I need to know certain things. I need to get certain things figured out on this call to have an answer of whether or not this is going to work. And the only way that works is if I lead the conversation. If I am the one directing it. Now, they get opportunities to ask questions. They get opportunities to do things. But this isn't just I show up and hit me with questions call. It cannot be that. It cannot be that, because if it is, that means you're unprepared. That means you don't have a plan. And that means they're just going to take advantage of the time to get a bunch of questions answered. And this isn't going to move in any kind of good direction. So I want you to consider that. I want you to think about that. Why do the conversations stall out? And why do you not get an opportunity to get a client? Because you're not leading. Then point number 2 that we want to talk about is you want to lead the conversation with curiosity and not a pitch. Now, what do I mean by that? When I'm talking about leading with curiosity, here's what I'm talking about. Don't go into the conversation and say, okay, thanks for getting on the call with me. Here's what I do. Here's what I can offer you. I have this many videos. I have this many coaching hours. I have this many training videos. I have this many downloadable workbooks. I have this many resources. I have this many tools and you get all of it for this much money. No, don't do that, because the point of the call is to figure out, what do they want? What are their goals? What are they trying to achieve? And once you understand that, once you have a better understanding of what it is that they're trying to do, now you don't need to talk about the 25 things that are involved in your program. Because now you understand, okay, these are the 2, maybe 3 things that you're really after. These are the couple of things that are really important to you. So let's just talk about how I can help meet those needs, because that's what you're really after. So when you're talking to somebody, you are asking them questions. And this is, again, part of leading. This isn't just sitting there silently and letting them pepper you with questions. No, you're asking them questions. You're leading this conversation. And when I talked about the first point of leading, this is what I'm talking about. You come in and say, okay, hello, Jim, it's a pleasure to meet you. Like, tell me a little bit about what it is that you're trying to do here. Like, what are your goals? What is it that where are you struggling? What's going on in your situation? Tell me a little about yourself. Tell me a little bit about your story. So, okay, so now what have you tried so far? Okay, well, I've tried doing this and this and this. Okay, how did that go? What were your experiences with that? Okay, so that didn't work well for you. Have you tried something like this? No, I haven't. Okay, interesting. And what you're doing is you're leading with curiosity. You're trying to learn about them. You're not passively sitting here letting them just hammer you with questions. And again, if they have a question along the way, fine. But you're leading with questions. You're asking them about their life, about their story, about their experiences, about their goals, their fears, their dreams. You're the one leading with the questions. You're the one sitting here going, okay, I'm trying to find out more about you. I'm trying to find out whether or not you and I are going to find a good match here. That like what you're trying to achieve and what I'm good at providing, do those meet in the middle? And this is something that I know a local business, and I've talked to a number of people at that business, and I've heard some really, really amazing stories coming out of it regarding their sales process. And one of them was basically, the way that the company is trying to teach them to sell is like absolutely asinine. They are trying to teach their people to use high pressure sales tactics. And I've heard stories of people who went in and were like, so they were basically, I heard, the customers basically say that they felt like they weren't going to be allowed to leave until they signed up, until they agreed and signed up. And then some of them literally did sign up just to get out of the building. And they went into the parking lot, into their car, and they immediately got on the phone and called and canceled their order immediately. But the pressure, the intensity, the push to get them signed up was so intense that they, were getting forced into something that they didn't want, because you were leading with the pitch. You're leading with the offer. You're leading with the service. You're not leading with curiosity. You're not actually finding out what they want. You're trying to force them into what you want, which is a sale. And as a result, there's not a fit, and you get a huge cancellation rate. People don't stick around. Even if they do sign up, they cancel quickly and walk out the door, and they vamoose. They're gone. They don't want anything to do it, and they feel like they had a miserable experience. Because at the end of the day, every one of these business transactions, what we have to keep in mind, what we have to remember is we are doing a trade. I have some money that I am willing to spend. You have expertise that you're willing to share. What our goal is here through this conversation is to come to an answer of, does it make sense for me to trade my money for your expertise? Does it make sense for me to trade my expertise for your money? Is this a fit? Because when it is, you're going to end up with happy customers who stick around for a long time. And I know of another individual in this company who's actually doing things very, very differently. He is actually taking the approach of going down, and he told me, he said, I'm, the most successful salesperson here. And he goes, it's solely because I ignore how they're telling me to sell. He goes, I come in and I talk to the potential customer and I ask them questions. So, what brought you in today? What is it that you're trying to achieve? What are your goals? What's your story? And they go around and they see the different services, they see the different opportunities for them. But once he understands, oh, okay, this is where your problem is, and this is why you're here, and this is what you're looking for. Okay, well, let's just talk about that. Let's just talk about how we can serve you to get you that problem solved, to get you to fill that need in your life. And as a result, people are like, wow, this is great. This is exactly what I need. Plus, not only that, you also have all these other things as well. Fantastic. Let's do it. Because he's leading with curiosity. He's leading with questions, but he is leading. He's leading the conversation. He's asking a lot of questions. He's getting the other individual to talk about their favorite subject, which is themselves. Let's just be honest. That's not a slam on anyone else. That's not an attack. But every single human being, what is everyone's favorite topic? To talk about themselves. It's a human nature thing. All of us, the one person we like to talk about more than anybody else is the person we look at in the mirror. That's our favorite person. That's the person we want to talk about more than anything. What's going on in our life. And that's true whether or not we're really unhappy and miserable and in pain, or if we're extremely happy and excited about our life. If we're unhappy and miserable, we talk about all our pain. We talk about all the things that are not going well, things that are a problem. If we're really excited about something great that happened, we want to share all the great things that are going on. That's our favorite subject. But again, it's just a part of being a human. So as you're leading this, lead with curiosity. Show them like, hey, I'm truly interested in what your story is. I'm truly interested in who you are, what you're about, what you're trying to achieve. And once I understand that, I then and if you come in and say, I want to do this, that, and the other thing, and you look at the other person and go, yeah, I don't know that that's going to work, because we don't do that. That's not really what we're about. So I can just be really honest with you. And at the end of the day, what you're going to do is, yes, maybe you don't make that initial sale, because too often then people sometimes are like, well, we could do that. We could do that. Well, no, you're not going to do that. And all you're going to do is create hard feelings. You're going to get an initial sale, but then they're going to leave and they're going to be mad and they're going to be frustrated and refund anyway. So just don't. Just don't. Have integrity. Be honest, be decent, be straightforward, be upfront with things, and just say, hey, look, this is where we shine. This is what we're really good at. You're coming in because these are your needs. These are the things that you want. However, if you want these other things, we're probably not the people to work with. You should probably go look for a different solution, because we're probably not the right provider for you. And in doing so, the customer is grateful. The customer is very happy, going, you were very straightforward and honest with me. You were truly trying to help me in my best interests. And how many times have each one of us had that experience where we met somebody who was truly, truly helpful to us? They heard us. They heard our needs. They heard our heart. They heard what we were trying to do. And as a result, they legitimately found a match. As a result, they legitimately found a way to create a solution. And if they couldn't create a solution, they said, I don't think I can. I don't think we're the right people or the right business to have a solution for you. Okay, I appreciate that. You actually gain respect for them because of their honesty and because of their clarity. They know what they're good at. They know what they really excel at, and they know where they're not good. So you can then make that easy decision to say, yes, this is exactly the place for me to go. These are the people that I need in my life. These are the people I want to work with. And not only that, when you do see that, you have this really strong sense of just like belief that this is a good decision, because they're being straightforward with me. They're being honest with me. They're not pressuring me. They're not pushing me. They're not shoving me down a path I don't want to go. They're leading me to an answer, to a solution. I came in with a problem, and they're leading me to a solution that I feel good about. And as a result, I do not have buyer's remorse. I'm excited. I'm excited to get started. I'm excited to get in the program. I'm excited to start working, because I believe that I found my answer. That's what happens when you lead with questions, when you lead with curiosity, when you lead the conversation in such a way that you're learning all about them, their goals, their needs, their fears, and so forth. And then you're showing how you are or are not a match for that. And when you do, now you have customers that come in excited. They come in enthusiastic about working with you, and they don't want a refund. They want to get to work. Now it's like, so how do I sign up? Let's go. And then the last thing is simply, you just make the invitation. Because now, and this making the invitation about, okay, well, here's what it would look like if we work together. This actually becomes very, very simple. And so many times people get excited and they get nervous. Well, I don't want to ask for the sale. It feels awkward asking for the sale. If you're asking for the sale and it feels awkward, it's because you haven't done a good job in the first two parts. You haven't led the conversation well, and you haven't been curious about them and made a match. Because if you did 1 and 2 well, if you were leading the conversation and not just letting them dominate and talk about whatever they wanted, and if you led the conversation with curiosity and you found out what their needs are and you showed them how you're a match, and then in saying, well, here's what it would look like for us to work together. We work in, I do coaching one-on-one. I do coaching in a group. I have a program like this. And this is how long it lasts. These are where we meet every Wednesday. We do whatever it is. This is how much it costs. The person is now super excited to get started. It's not awkward at all. They're like, well, how do I get started? I mean, I've literally had people who were so excited about what we talked about that they said, okay, just David, just stop. How do I sign up? Stop talking, David. How do I, don't explain anything else to me. Just how do I get signed up? Because they so saw the match. They so saw how well it worked. They saw that I was the solution to the problem that they were looking to solve. As a result, they wanted to jump in and get going. These are all things that make the offer at the end, the invitation to join, the invitation to work together, extremely simple. If you've done number 1 and number 2 well, you don't have to worry about step 3. They're almost going to be begging you to tell them, how can we work together? How do we get started? How much is it? How fast can I get going? How soon can I get in there? Because they now know they're excited about the solution, and whatever the price is, well, I'll just have to figure out how to come up with the money, because I so desperately need this. I so desperately want this that I'll find a way to pay for it. Done. Not only was it not a pressure-filled conversation, it was a helpful conversation that got them excited about their life because they finally feel like they have a solution to something that's been bothering them for a very long time. You're not pitching, you're not pushing, you're not shoving someone down a path that they don't want to go. What you're doing is you're leading with curiosity to get to a solution of whether or not this is a match or this is not a match. That's how then because at the end of the day, that's how everyone's going to understand, does this make sense or does this not make sense? And if somebody comes in and they're just trying to dominate the conversation, trying to get everything out of you, you can just simply say, well, that's what we do in our coaching program. So we work on things like that. But today, what we really need to do is to try and find out whether or not this is actually a relationship that makes sense. Does it make sense for us to work together? And if they don't care and they just keep pushing and shoving to get answers, then probably the best solution is just simply to say, hey, I appreciate all that, but we're probably not the best fit for you because you don't respect me as a service provider. You don't respect what I'm doing. You're just trying to take advantage of a situation. So just to kind of wrap everything up, I want to kind of pull all the thoughts together here so we can kind of recap everything into a nice, neat little capsule. Number 1, conversations stall when you don't lead. Or they drift is another way to say it as well. When you're not intentionally leading that conversation, the conversation can go wherever the person who's the potential client wants to take it. And Lord only knows they can take it almost anywhere. You are the one that needs to know, I'm the one who's going to lead it. I'm the one who's going to ask the questions. I'm the one who's going to set the pace. I'm the one who's going to keep it to 30 minutes or whatever it needs to be. I'm the one who's going to direct it. I'll find out. I'm here to find out whether or not we are a good fit for each other. So I am going to lead the conversation and ask questions. I'm going to find out a lot about you, find out what your needs are, what your goals are, and try to determine whether or not this makes sense. And then as you do that through the second point, which is curiosity. You don't pitch. You don't just tell them about what you do. You don't just sit here and throw all sorts of stuff at them saying, well, this is what we offer. This is what we have. This is what we do. Because when you do that, you're just like shooting stuff, throwing mud at the wall, hoping some of it sticks. You're just throwing all sorts of information at them, hoping that at least a piece or two of it gets them excited and gets them interested. No, first find out what it is that they're interested in, what it is that they want, what their goals are, what they're looking for. Then selectively share all the stuff that's going to help them get to where they want to go. Once you do that, and then you could also mention, if you want to, yes, we also have all these other things as well. So we have a whole range of services here, whole range of products, a whole range of things that you can utilize. It's all available to you. But primarily, this is what's important to you, and we can take care of that for you. We can help you with that. And they're going to be super excited. And that's going to lead to the end point where your invitation, you just make an invitation. Okay, if you're interested in working together, here's how we can do it. And if you don't think this is a great fit, it's been a pleasure getting to know you, to learn more about your story, and I wish you well. It's as simple as that. We don't have to turn this into anything complicated. We don't have to turn this into something difficult. Just simply find out if there's a match, and if there is, make the offer. And if you know in your heart, wow, this person and I, we are not, nope. I don't want to work together with this person. This is going to be a disaster if we try and take them on as a client. Don't even make the offer. You don't even have to make the invitation. Don't even invite them to become a client. You say, okay, well, it was great getting to know you today. It's great learning all about you. And I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you again soon. Maybe we'll cross paths again someday. And let it go. Don't even invite them to become a client, because you know that it would be a mistake. It'd be great having the money, but the money isn't going to last, because they're not going to stick, and they're going to refund out anyway. And in the meantime, they're going to cause you a mountain of headaches. So I hope that was helpful to you today. I hope you have a framework for leading conversations with people to become clients, because this is a critical part of doing business and getting people to work with you. And if there's anything that we could do to help you in your business, please check out designlaunchgrow.com. Fill out an application. We would love to have a conversation with you. Otherwise, I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you again in the next episode.